Breaking news, everybody. This is extremely serious. NATO, the CIA, George Soros just launched a major coup on Romania. Why? Well, you'll hear all about it in today's episode right after this brief message. The leading presidential candidate, Călin Georgescu, was an underdog. No one thought he was going to win. He had no funding, and then he won the first round of presidential elections, and the second round of presidential elections was slated to take place this Sunday, and NATO, the CIA, they pressured, and the Constitutional Court in Romania, very corrupt, said the first round of elections don't count. We're canceling the elections this Sunday. It's over. Now, keep in mind, Călin Georgescu was expected to win this vote on Sunday, the second round of the election. That's why they had to do this. He was polling at 48%, high 48% to 46% for his opposition, liberal, warmongering opposition, okay? Now, this coup that is underway right now in Romania can be stopped if the Romanian people stand up. The military, they stand with Călin Georgescu in Romania, the sovereign military of Romania. It is up to you, it is up to the people to revolt against this deep state coup and fight back. You have the numbers, you have my support if I'm being honest. The only problem that these people, these peace-seeking people are going to have are the NATO troops that are already occupying their country from the United States and potentially even from abroad. This is Ukraine all over again, and the allegation is that it was Russian interference. They said Russian TikTok interference. Călin Georgescu, we have to stop your campaign. Listen, the only foreign interference in this election were the billions that were spent to elect another pro-NATO candidate to lead Romania, stripping them of their democracy. Also, we saw a private jet chartered from Fort Lauderdale in Florida in the United States leave and land in Bucharest, Romania, 40 minutes before the Constitutional Court came forward with this decision canceling the elections. Also, of course, TikTok, which is controlled by the United States and Romania, actually banned Călin Georgescu supporters. There's no collusion. This is Trump all over again, the Russian collusion hoax. It's Maidan all over again, Ukraine, stripping them of their freedom so they can send their young boys to war for NATO, for Raytheon, for the military-industrial complex, for George Soros. I hope you don't let it stand. The Romanian people need to rise up. Now listen to my full episode where I actually talk about the election. I talk about Călin Georgescu. I talk about how important this race is and what Călin Georgescu wants to bring to the people of Romania. No, he's not a Putin puppet. He is fighting for Romania's sovereignty and for one hope that we can all have in the West. Welcome back to Legitimate Targets, everybody. This is episode number 43, and today I'm going to talk to you about the number one threat to the global establishment. His name is Călin Georgescu, and he is freaking everybody out in the EU, in the United Nations, in NATO. They are losing their minds over this man who is running for the presidency of Romania. They said he had no shot to win. They said, at best, he's going to win 10% of the vote. Does that story sound familiar? Does it sound like a story that we heard in America not too long ago? I think so. I think so. The only difference between Donald Trump and Călin Georgescu is that where Donald Trump might pose 1% of a threat to the globalist deep state order, 3% of a threat, Călin Georgescu seeks to pose a total threat to the globalist deep state order. And why does he want to do that? Is he a puppet of Putin, as they say? Is he, some, Russian puppet? No. The answer is quite simple, and he's actually expounded upon this answer quite a bit. The answer is that he aims to serve Romania's interests. He's not serving the interests of the top 1% of Romania, the people who actually have a financial interest in maintaining this Western unipolar order. He's not serving the interests of the Romanian defense companies who are spending all their money on NATO, building up this military to, start World War III. He's not serving the interests of anybody but the 99% of Romanians. He serves God. And that's what is freaking out the globalist establishment. So we're going to talk about Călin Georgescu. And I do have to say to all of my audience members in Romania, if you know someone in Romania, I highly suggest that you vote for Călin Georgescu. And I'm not saying this as an American. I'm saying this as someone who wants the West to succeed, who wants the West to have a revitalization, who wants the West to act as a partner, as a civilization amongst other civilizations rather than a civilization that controls all others. I want the West to understand that if we follow God, we will be victorious. We will succeed. We will be living to our highest potential. And Călin Georgescu understands that, represents that, and is willing to fight for that. Now, this is not so much of a campaign pitch for Călin Georgescu. Simply, I want to expose the truth about this man who's being so lied about in the press. Because if you look at the mainstream media right now all across the West, they're saying the most horrendous things imaginable about Călin Georgescu. They're saying half-truths, they're saying complete lies, and we're going to go through all of it and explain why it's so important to get to the bottom of this story. It's an unthinkable story, it's an underdog story, it's a story that every American should love because, again, he was polling at 10%. There's two, main parties that were expected to make their way into the runoff election in the first round of the presidential election voting in Romania, and it just so happens that not only did Călin Georgescu win or emerge victorious in the first round of voting, he actually won it. They said you're going to get 10% of the vote, and then the two main party candidates, like in the United States, they're going to be the ones who go into the second round of voting, and Georgescu is going to be left to the side, and he won't make it into the final round of voting. But he actually defeated all of them. He won with about 23% of the vote, and the current ruling prime minister actually lost in the first round of the election voting. They tried to do a recount. They said, the results must be screwed up. We have to do a recount. Well, they did their recount. They did their investigations, and actually the vote was 100% correct. But let me explain to you why this is so important. Why Romania? What is so important about Romania for the West? Well, Romania is an extremely important NATO member state. Not only are they one of the biggest spenders in NATO on military equipment, building up their military, but geographically, Romania is very important. They are located on the southeastern flank of NATO. It borders the Black Sea and shares borders with Ukraine, as we all know, which is currently at the center of potential World War III. Romania has also actively participated in NATO operations and missions in the past. They participated in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, and in Kosovo. So, the ruling establishment in Romania really doesn't have a great track record of serving their people. In fact, they serve the interests of the warmongers in DC and the warmongers in London. They serve the interests of Wall Street and the city of London. They serve the interests, I guess, of the ruling oligarchy in Romania, who have an interest in expanding their wealth at the expense of 99% of the country. But that's about it. That's about all they've done, okay? Romania also possesses the second largest military on NATO's eastern flank, 75,000 troops compared to Poland's 122,000 troops. And the country flies F-16 combat jets and M1 Abrams main battle tanks from America. And they also aim to open one of the largest air bases in NATO. So this is the classic puppet state of the West. And it's geographically very important. And they're one of the main, money laundering schemes for the West. So the idea that someone might become president in Romania who isn't, as the mainstream media is trying to lead you on to believe. He's not saying like, we need to pull out of NATO immediately. We need to pull out of the EU. He's saying we need to come to the table as a sovereign country. We need to reintroduce Romania, have this revitalization, reintroduce Romania as a country that is in service to God and in service to our people, and come to any and all, negotiating tables in the pursuit of a fair, open, and honest bargain. Fair, open, honest trade. Fair, open, honest partnerships. And if we can't find that, we can't find that. And maybe we'll look elsewhere. But he hasn't said we're going to pull out of NATO, we're going to pull out the Western mainstream media is trying to scare all these Romanians into thinking that, like, oh, he's a Putin puppet. Well, he's never said that. He doesn't support continuing the funding of the Ukraine proxy war, which is a great thing. Donald Trump has said that as well, and Donald Trump was just elected president of the United States, so they agree on this matter, okay? But anyways, I want to share a little bit with you about Călin Georgescu, because I think you'll find him very interesting. We talked about the importance of Romania. Now let's talk about the man himself, Călin Georgescu. Basically, what you need to understand about him is the fundamental approach that he has taken in this election cycle is rooted on a few things, three things in particular. Sovereignty for Romania, a distributionist model economy, and prioritizing traditionalism and God in the country. Those are the three things. And it's a winning message. I mean, I fully endorse it. And I think most Romanians will as well. That's why you can actually find videos like the one I'm going to show you right now all across TikTok of average Romanians, young and old, of all walks of life, saying, yes, I support Georgescu over the establishment. I mean, it's crazy. It's like he basically blew up. His campaign blew up on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. No one saw him coming. Mainly TikTok he blew up on. Take a look at this clip right here. It's incredible.
Călin Georgescu sau la Lasconi?
Lasconi.
Călin Georgescu sau la Lasconi?
Georgescu.
Călin Georgescu sau la Lasconi?
Lasconi.
Călin Georgescu sau la Lasconi?
Călin Georgescu, bineînțeles.
Mulțumesc. Călin Georgescu sau la Lasconi?
Georgescu.
Călin Georgescu sau la Lasconi?
Nu ținem cu...
Lasconi.
Lasconi.
Călin Georgescu sau la Lasconi?
Georgescu.
Mulțumim. Călin Georgescu sau la Lasconi?
Georgescu.
Călin Georgescu sau la Lasconi?
Călin Georgescu.
Călin Georgescu sau la Lasconi?
Călin Georgescu.
Merci.
Now you see clips like that, and you understand it when you see all those people coming together and saying, yeah, I reject the establishment. I want a revitalization of our country. You begin to understand that that's a powerful message. And it's why now the Romanian authorities are actually trying to get TikTok banned. In fact, US-controlled TikTok in Romania has gone forward and banned several quote-unquote Russian cluster groups of TikTok accounts spouting pro-Putin propaganda. They're just banning people that are pro-Georgescu because they understand that he's winning amongst the youth, he's winning amongst average Romanians, and if they can limit his success on TikTok, maybe they can limit his success at the polls come election day, which is December 8th, second round of elections, December 8th. It's coming up very soon. But I don't think they're going to be victorious. I think average Romanians are going to see through the BS, and they are going to vote for the future of Western civilization and vote for the future of their country. What does true sovereignty mean for Mr. Georgescu? Well, let's take a listen to hear what he had to say in an interview with Politico just a few days ago. He said, if today, like the Romanian people, I pay for water, do you know where I pay? I pay to a French firm which didn't invest, didn't contribute a nail, but collects the money. I also pay a foreign company for natural gas. I also pay for electricity from a foreign company. I buy my gasoline, my own gasoline, and where do I pay? I also pay to a foreigner. So basically, Georgescu is saying our country has been completely raped by foreign transnational corporations, and we want to take it back. These major industries, we need to take it back. Look at what China's done. China has control over their main resources, and it has proven to be extremely beneficial for them. If China, all their major resources were controlled by the United States or France or the United Kingdom or whoever else, the Chinese people would be suffering right now, but that's not how it is. China controls their assets. It's their resources. These resources are located beneath their feet, beneath their homes, and therefore they get to reap the benefits of it. It makes a lot of sense, and Mr. Georgescu understands that. He understands that, hey, look, we've had 20 some odd years of George Soros and his friends, Bill Gates and his friends, poisoning our country, raping our country, stealing our resources, and we want to put an end to that. Romania is for Romanians. Romania is not for George Soros and his band of crooks and thieves. Basically, he's extremely base, and he's freaking a lot of people in the establishment out. In terms of how Mr. Georgescu plans to combat these companies in key utility sectors, Georgescu said, as in many places in Eastern Europe, that the country's prize assets have been improperly sold off in a murky wave of privatizations after the fall of communism. He vowed that he would use his first 100 days to claw back these assets. So it is going to start off with a bang, and a big bang for the globalist elite, for George Soros, and a big win for the people of Romania. He said, "I'm interested that the Romanian people, not foreigners, should have property in my country." When asked about the scale of his plans to get the assets back, he said, "I was referring to recovering what was privatized and what was wrongfully privatized in Romania. No privatization is justified." Okay, well, incredible stuff. Now, one of the other things I want to share with you is that when you look at the biography of Mr. Georgescu, you'll begin to understand that he comes from a long line of Orthodox priests, Christian leaders. He also comes from a direct family, his immediate family, of bourgeois intelligentsia. He held himself prominent positions on the global stage. He served as a member of the executive committee of the International Club of Rome, and he was the president of the European Research Center of the Club of Rome. And additionally, he was a UN Special Rapporteur on the adverse effects of the transport of toxic and dangerous products, and acted as Romania's representative to the National Committee on the United Nations Environment Program. Now, why is this all important? It's extremely important because if there's one thing that the United Nations, the Club of Rome, the World Economic Forum, all these corrupt entities, if there's one thing that they fear more than a person who's willing to expose their secrets, it's a person who is one of their own, a whistleblower, who knows every bit of their secrets, how they operate, who they are. These people are... these are names that you've never heard of that are hiding behind the scenes, these unelected globalist elite. Georgescu knows who they are. He knows how they operate. He knows what they're doing on a daily basis. He knows their crimes. He has seen it with his own eyes, and he's willing to expose it all and fight for his country. If you don't believe me, take a listen to this clip where he talks about the fact that the United Nations is a global network of pedophiles.
The problem is that the UN agenda is the same with Davos agenda. This, in fact, is my main topic for our conversation today. For this reason, the world oligarchic system, they have the power on Europe because they control all the people like Bundeskanzler or president or prime minister or whatever there are. In a sense that UN could be a fantastic, can have a fantastic role, but is not, because it's totally under control of the oligarchs. The problem is that these oligarchs, all of them, are related with the system of the pedophilia one, because we know that there are more than 8 million children per year which they disappear. 8 million does mean the entire population of Austria. They disappear without any information, simply like that. And this is the transhumanism.
So you see videos like that and you understand exactly why they're freaking out. He calls himself a whistleblower. He has exposed what they're doing at these corrupt agencies, and he's willing to fight for his country. In addition to that, he is showing the Romanian people what a true Romanian looks like. A true Romanian is not someone that looks like some, Brussels bureaucrat. They don't look like Joseph Borrell. They don't look like Ursula von der Leyen. No, he's representing the true Orthodox tradition in Romania. And that's another part of his campaign, tradition, fighting for families, fighting for traditional values as the European Union and the United States try to impress all of these globalist, woke, crazy gender, transgender ideologies on the masses, on the global masses. He's saying, no, we are going to fight for traditional values. We're going to fight for patriotism. We're going to fight for family values. Take a look at this video right here. This is another great one. Directly after he won the first round of voting, Georgescu came out and he said, you know, we have God on our side. I knew we would be victorious. We as a country will be victorious because we have God on our side. We have this tradition of acting in service to God. And those who are fighting against God will never be victorious. This is him at an Orthodox church praying before a set of icons.
Noi avem încă norocul să ne închinăm la aceste comori. Uitați ce se întâmplă la alții. Astăzi este lupta împotriva lui Dumnezeu. Numai că ei nu știu, globaliștii, că Dumnezeu nu poate să fie învins, nu poate să fie înlocuit. Este practic o criză spirituală astăzi. Este lupta Arhanghelului Mihail cu Satana. Este sigur și se dorește să se scoată creștinismul din lume. Noi chemăm la conștientizare creștină. Credem nelimitat în biserica noastră strămoșească, credem nelimitat în Iisus Hristos și țară.
You know, another interesting part of his campaign was directly after the campaigns closed and everyone, all these big campaigns, you know, by these establishment politicians, they're reporting all the millions of dollars that they raise from Western NGOs and Western think tanks and all these corrupt organizations that are funded by the United States, the military-industrial complex, NATO, so on and so forth. They're boasting about how much money they made. Someone noticed that Mr. Georgescu actually didn't report any campaign contributions. How could that be? How could you run for president of Romania? At the time, they didn't even know he had won. This was before the voting. And they said, what do you mean you have no campaign contributions to report? He said, I have nothing to report. We have God on our side. And then, after they said he was going to lose, they mocked him, they laughed. He went out and won. He beat all of them. Gives me chills, honestly, when I reflect on all of this. He's also a black belt in karate, so maybe, I don't know, maybe this is where the rumors of him being a Putin puppet are coming from. They see Putin as a black belt in judo, and they see Georgescu black belt in karate, and they get really scared of these men who can fight, and they say, oh, they must all be working in collusion, but that's not true. But there are some people who are working to get Mr. Georgescu elected. We have yet to see if this manifests, but I am assuming it might because Tucker Carlson is in Moscow today, and there are reports, not confirmed, but there are reports that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., one of the key surrogates of the Trump 2024 campaign and now selected to be the Secretary for the Health and Human Services Department of the United States government under the Trump administration in 2025, RFK Jr. and Tucker Carlson will be going to Bucharest, Romania this week to do a live event with Călin Georgescu and to support him and do some public event and meet with him. I mean, this is really crazy. The announcement was made by a TV station called, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, which claims to be the media partner of the event. This is, I think this would secure the deal. I mean, I've seen some polls, oddly enough, which have Georgescu leading right now. They're saying he's going to win the general election. Polling with like pretty high numbers. I mean, we have yet to see. We're still days away. But Tucker Carlson and RFK Jr. come. I mean, that's a huge, huge, huge boom for the Georgescu campaign. And on the final days of this campaign, what is Georgescu saying? I mean, he's just saying what he said all along. He's saying, I want to put Romania back on the map of Europe in the world. I know how to do this. I'll do it for sure. I'll do it with dignity, from a dignified position. This is what a Western leader should look like in the multipolar era. It's as simple as this. No one's talking about being a Putin puppet. No one's talking about a China puppet. No, we're talking about fair, open dialogue as a Western country and a Western country that will respect all other countries in the multipolar world. He said, we Romanians exist on this earth to live in peace with both those from the West and those from the East, and not to serve either the West or the East. I mean, it just completely flies in the face of all the propaganda that we've been hearing about Georgescu over the past several weeks as he has come out of victorious after the first round of voting. Now, if you want to know who they're running against Georgescu, I mean, I don't even understand how this person has a chance. The only way they have a chance of winning is because they're funded to the tune likely of billions of dollars, if not maybe hundreds of millions of dollars, by Western political groups that hope to continue the raping and pillaging of Romania. The opposition candidate is from the most extreme neoliberal party. They embody this bizarre combination of like Javier Milei economics, so complete selling of all their resources, assets, gold, everything to British banks and, you know, U.S. financial interests, like complete subservience, bending the knee, and just selling out of your country to the globalist elite. So they combine this, the opposition combines this, with the total liberal satanic culture war, which we've been seeing reign supreme in the Biden administration for the past 4 years. They support this transgender values of the synthetic left, tyranny and repression of free speech, plus a very hawkish Russophobic attitude. And if you can believe it, you know, I mentioned at the start of this how important Romania is for NATO. If you can believe it, if the enemies to humanity win in Romania, they have openly declared that they want to send Romania to war in Ukraine, which will be World War III if you have Romania going to war in Ukraine. Extending the conflict to NATO, that's what they want. So these people are little Satanists. These are people that have no regard for 99%. It's not even just about Romania at this point. Unipolarity, the unipolar masters in Romania are saying we are willing to sacrifice 99% of the global population to maintain our profits, to maintain our position in Romania, to maintain our nice little title, to maintain our cocktail parties, our dinner Christmas parties, you know, whatever it is. They are willing to sacrifice all of humanity in a nuclear holocaust for the expense of their private profits, for their shareholders, for NATO, for whoever it is. I mean, it is very, very startling, okay? And all because they don't want another Viktor Orban. They don't want another, they don't want another guy like the Slovak leader, Fico. They don't want someone who's going to pursue true sovereignty, okay? Fortunately, for those that do love sovereignty and do love humanity, we do have some good news. A man by the name of Brad Parscale is headed to Romania right now. Brad was the digital and media director for Trump in 2016, campaign manager for Trump in 2020, and the founder of Camp Nucleus, which is the high-tech software that actually powered Trump 2024 to victory just a few weeks ago. And he's headed to Bucharest to meet with Georgescu and help boost him to victory as well. I couldn't be any more happy about that. So, as a final note here, I want to go through, and this is going to be a longer piece of the puzzle, but I want to go through and look at exactly what Mr. Georgescu is proposing in terms of policies. Because we talked about sovereignty, we talked about traditionalism, but another key pillar of his campaign is what he's calling a distributist state, a sovereign distributist state. What does that mean? It's so interesting. It's so interesting. The sovereign distributist economy, as he says, is the economy of the workers' owners, of the traditional family, of the communities, of the authentic Romanian producer, a fair, stable, and moral economy that testifies to tradition to mark the beginning of the great national resistance. I mean, it sounds like the words of American founding fathers being rebirthed in 2024 in Romania for their great national revival after they've had 20 plus years of George Soros rule, and before that, the tail end of the bitter period of so-called communism, which was just, I mean, it was superfluous at that point. It was completely out of touch what was going on in the Soviet satellite states. I mean, it was a very dark time. So as Mr. Georgescu describes it, he says this is what our distributive state will actually look like, what it will actually do. It will be a participatory economic democracy involving the spread of well-being on a large scale by encouraging, supporting, and generalizing small and medium-sized productive property and associative forms. Its practical realization is made through a set of public policies and legislative measures coherently articulated and intended for the creation and development of popular banks, public banking, production and distribution cooperatives, enterprises with workers, owners, production and partnership put in place. I mean, I feel like I don't know. I feel like this is the exact opposite of what we've been seeing in all these EU states getting raped and pillaged by the globalist elite. I mean, I think actually what Georgescu is trying to do here should serve as a model for all of Europe in the future. I think it should serve as a model. I think if he can achieve what he is talking about here, this should not only be something that we look at and say, hey, that's cool, but Orban should take that same approach. Slovakia should take that same approach. All countries pursuing sovereignty in Europe should take the, not to say that they are Romania and they can do the same exact thing. They're not. Every country has its own, history and its own material reality that they need to adapt to. But they should take this as a starting point and say, how can we adapt this to our history, to our country, to our traditions, to our economy, to our resources? Because if you can do this, every country in Europe will be able to free themselves from the yoke of the globalists. Okay, he also says this about the distributive state. Widespread productive ownership ensures a sound economic mechanism. Workers are masters of the land, machinery, and their own skills, and thus have control over their own destiny. Well, that's not going to make BlackRock happy. Larry Fink is going to be very upset by that one. The workers get to own the land and the machines? Oh God, Larry Fink is going to be having a heyday over this one. In addition, the development of small and medium-sized productive property, not speculative property, encourages and reinforces the feeling of communion, equality, and freedom because it gives the citizen the chance to become an owner-producer. That is, a truly worthy and free person whose well-being depends only on himself and on cooperation with peers. Meaning, if you don't work, you don't eat. But if you do work, if you do contribute, your work is not going to be stolen, again, by Bill Gates, Soros, BlackRock, any of these corrupt entities. It's not going to be stolen by Hunter Biden. It's not going to be stolen by some massive asset management company from Brussels. You will be the one who benefits, who reaps the rewards of your hard work, of your labor. It's incredible. The effect over time, this is all in his campaign website. I'm just so shocked by this. The effect over time is the widespread of economic power, the creation of real wealth for the benefit of families and communities. Only small and middle property brings back freedom, the cult of honor and work, because it is the only possibility for the common man to get out of slavery and acquire material autonomy safely and with dignity. A network of popular and cooperative banks, credit unions will be created, which will finance the implementation of the sovereign distributist model, the priority being the support of organic agriculture based on the conservation of land. We will not deal with a nanny state that will redistribute wealth egalitistically according to the socialist model, but with the widespread of associative forms of productive ownership over land, tools, education, resources, and through easy access to cheap capital. This is the future. This is the future. Having an economic model like this mixed with traditional cultural values is the future and is exactly what the West needs to achieve true sovereignty in the future. And I think the most important point that you really need to hit home and understand from his website is he's talking about state ownership, the people's ownership of the raw resources, the natural resources on the territory of Romania. He actually says the important point is that the people will own 51% of all the natural resources that have been exploited in Romania by the globalist Western elite for years. He also talks about sovereignty in his campaign quite a bit. In his view, in Georgescu's view, sovereignty is the term by which we express concretely through deeds our confidence in our ability to rebuild Romania through themselves, not with the support of, the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund, but in fact through their own deeds, through their own traditions, with their own resources. And I think that, again, is another very important tool and lesson that can be used as we try to free ourselves and achieve true sovereignty in all the Western countries as well. He says, the good that you wish for your country, such as national sovereignty or control over natural and cultural heritage, must also be the good that other nations benefit from. From this position, we must understand that relations between nation states for us are extremely important. He talks about seeking peace and diplomacy with other nations rather than what previous Romanian leaders have been hell-bent on continuing, which is the buildup of this NATO proxy state in Romania, which they hope will eventually be used in a major conflict with Russia. How are they going to do that? They're going to do the same thing they did in Ukraine. They're going to sacrifice hundreds of thousands of Romanian men to go die in a pointless war for NATO, the IMF, and the World Bank, for Brussels and Wall Street. This is what they want to do to Romania. They want to completely genocide the people in a proxy war that will end in a nuclear holocaust. Okay? It's extremely sad. It's extremely sad what they are trying to do. So, as a final point, why did I spend this time today speaking to you about Călin Georgescu? Is it because I'm such a big fan of him? I mean, it is true. I like the guy quite a bit. And I think he's got the answers that we need in the West. But the main reason why I wanted to speak about Călin Georgescu is because I think there's a problem that the multipolar world is going to have to come to grips with very soon. And that problem is that in most of the countries that are in this multipolar matrix, in this multipolar grouping, in the BRICS grouping, okay, you look at these countries, bar China, and I can't even really say bar Russia, but bar China, the countries that are making up the multipolar order, so to speak, challenging the unipolar order, have one big problem. That problem is that according to just the traditional view of geopolitics, we have to understand that nation states act in their own self-interest. But in every single state, you have a bunch of different classes that have competing interests. And it just so happens that in most of these BRIC states and most of these multipolar states, the ruling class is still a ruling class made up of oligarchs who built their wealth on Western finance capital, or who can extend their wealth and expand their wealth by the expansion of Western collaboration or possibly even control over their countries. And these people, like the people Georgescu is fighting in Romania, are again willing to sacrifice, I would imagine, the sovereignty of 99% of their countrymen if it means making one more dollar or increasing their stock portfolio or whatever it might be. And Donald Trump has come out and he has decided that instead of integrating America into this multipolar order, instead of seeking peace and reconciliation with the world, Donald Trump has said, I'm going to defend the unipolar imperialist system. Anyone pursuing de-dollarization will meet the mother of all tariffs. 100% tariffs, 1,000% tariffs. Now you hear that and you might think, okay, but that's probably going to backfire. That's what Peskov said, Dmitry Peskov in Russia. He said that's going to backfire. I don't know. I think the only appropriate response to saying we're going to place 100% tariffs on every country pursuing sovereignty is this means war. This means war. You are trying to enslave the masses as you campaigned just days ago against the globalist elite. Now you want to enslave the masses on behalf of Wall Street, on behalf of the IMF, on behalf of the World Bank, Donald Trump. That's what you want to do. This is war. Saying it's going to backfire, I mean, I don't know if it's going to backfire. There's going to be a long war ahead for BRICS in the multipolar world if they actually seek to achieve their goals. And this fight is going to be against oligarchs in their own countries. Oligarchs in Iran, oligarchs in Russia who say we don't want to leave the IMF. We don't want to leave the World Bank because it's going to hurt our Russian assets abroad. Georgescu, the reason why I'm talking about him, the reason why I'm talking about this sovereign distributist model based on traditional values that he is putting forward inside of Romania is because this is the answer as to how Western countries can actually integrate themselves into the multipolar world while respecting the history of their people, while respecting the sovereignty of their people, while also engaging with the business community, the sovereign business community in each respective country, and developing it, and developing the manufacturing sector in your country, and developing your resources and getting the resources that are under your feet back into the hands of your countrymen. This is how the West can save itself. Georgescu has the plan, and that's why the West is freaking out right now and saying everything that they can think of to try and vilify him. It has nothing, I mean, the idea that he said, oh, I don't want to do more Ukraine funding because, I mean, how much Ukraine funding does Romania really do? Like, is NATO that freaked out about Romania's Ukraine funding that they're willing to, lie to the high heavens about Georgescu? No. They are worried about Georgescu because he presents a very, very enticing offer to every other country in the West as to how they can achieve sovereignty, free themselves, build their economies, and integrate into the multipolar world. And they understand that it is so enticing that maybe, just maybe, other countries are going to try to break free from the globalist order and achieve their own sovereignty as well. So I say, God bless Romania, God bless Călin Georgescu. I wish you all the best of luck in the upcoming elections on December 8th. I hope Tucker Carlson and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. come to visit, and I am just so excited as a citizen of the Western world to see what is unfolding in Romania. And I would be probably a little bit mistaken. I think I'd be missing an opportunity here if I'm not saying Georgescu is a communist, but I'm saying simply, if you fail to see the similarities between what me and many of my comrades are pursuing in the United States with the American Communist Party, rooted on multipolarity and economic sovereignty and cultural sovereignty for the United States, for the American people, what we are doing with MAGA communism, embracing traditional values of the people, I guess honing in on the popular discontent for the economic, the cultural, and the geopolitical crises that the American people find themselves in as a result of the globalist ruling establishment being cucked to this globalist cabal of international elites, to Wall Street, to the City of London, to NATO, so on and so forth. There seems to be a unique similarity between Georgescu, and off the top of my head, I mean, there's others that come to mind, but maybe I'll wait a little bit until after the election, until I dive into other similarities I find with political movements across the world and what Georgescu is actually achieving and building right now in Romania. But anyways, we'll talk more about Romania after the elections. I look forward to seeing what happens, and I know it is going to be, it's going to be a very, very difficult fight either way. Whether they achieve victory or they don't, it's going to be a difficult fight. And if they do achieve victory, it's going to be a very, very long fight. But I hope for the prosperity of the Romanian people, and God is with you, and I'm praying for your victory and your freedom from the satanic scum who have ruled your country for far too long. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I'll catch you all next time. We've got a lot of great guests and news coming to you very soon. Until next time, peace out. Have a great rest of your night. Breaking